Greetings, Mindcrafters. I am Dr. Kimberly Quinn, and I'd like to welcome you today to our discussion on Wired for Happy. So, we're going to jump right in with the biggie, which, of course, is practicing thought control. That's the biggest one. And, there's so many people out there, like educated, put together professionals who don't really, I think, stop to think about this. Like, it makes great sense when you think about it, but many don't. And it's so important to really grasp the idea, because what the thoughts we allow dictate our behavior. Simple yet profound, okay? Really true. I mean, think about it. Again, the analogy I use is, or the visual that I use is, think about, if we remove someone's brain with kindness and anesthesia and put it up on a shelf in formaldehyde, that person, ask yourself, what would they be thinking or feeling or behaving, doing, acting, whatever? And the answer is nothing, because it all starts with the brain. And so when we learn to practice thought control and change and redirect, really it's redirect our thinking, we literally, change how we feel, which also changes our actions. So changing thoughts, without any exaggeration at all, changes lives. So, just think like an easy example. If we're, let's say somebody 2 weeks ago, let's say caught you off guard, and they could have been totally in the wrong. Really not the point here. And, you're stewing, like, they really pissed me off, and if only I had two more seconds, I would have said this and would have said that. And, sorry, the bugs are driving me crazy again. They say it's between Mother's Day and Father's Day, so like a day early. So this person pissed you off. Again, they could have been totally wrong. They could have been cranky, or who knows. There goes Giovanni. But we're still living in that 2 weeks ago, And so here we are. The thing is long since over. And now we're angry 2 weeks later. Like the event doesn't even exist anymore. So we talked about some strategies which were actually for dealing with anxiety. And it's really, those strategies will work for, sort of any unwanted thoughts. And disclaimer, we're not saying it takes the place of any professional, treatment, because I'm a big fan. Go ahead and, therapy and or medication, whatever. But the truth is, these strategies are a great complement. So we talked about when these unwanted thoughts happen, whether it's what-if thinking, catastrophizing about everything, like the worst possible scenarios of things, what-if thinkers, it's all a feedback loop, and it's self-reinforcing. Because it's the limbic system. So every time we allow these thoughts, or the thoughts about whoever pissed you off 2 weeks ago, it's like giving a dog like a really juicy steak bone. It's just self-reinforcing. So it's very important to know that. And I'm dealing with allergies. That's why I'm breathing a little weird. Yeah, there are a lot this year, kind of, but it just had me feeling very grateful for when it's easy to breathe, actually. Okay, so practicing thought control. So one of the strategies was, when all this stuff starts, it's a feedback loop about whatever happened 2 weeks ago. Not today, maybe tomorrow. When we trick the brain into thinking it has an appointment with us, it's more apt to leave us alone, and it will. As long as you sort of expect and are ready for a little tantrum in between, because the brain is like a toddler. So when we tell it no, it's like, seriously, do you know who you're dealing with? Bah, 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 wah! Fists and everything. So it's really not different. So know that you got to the only way out is through, as they say, right? So not today, maybe tomorrow, and eventually that stuff will start to go away. And so changing our thoughts really does dictate changing our feelings and behavior, which means we're changing our lives. And then they're also wired to be happy. In addition to practicing thought control, which is like the number one, we're going to get into mindfulness and gratitude, but they're going to have to be more than one episode, because that's a lot of stuff. So awareness is important. It's so important to realize a couple of things. What's working for you and what isn't. Because a lot of times, again, sometimes really put together people are kind of in this autopilot mode, doing the same thing. If you're doing the same routine every day with the same thinking and the same whatever it is you're doing, and expecting things to be different, I mean, think about that logically, right? It doesn't make any sense. And it can be a heavy lift to make changes. And so the first thing is awareness. What's working for you and what isn't? And because we can't do what we don't know. I mean, that's basic sense, right? We can't do what we don't know. However, once we have the awareness, my Dr. Davism, then we have the responsibility. And our own mental health is our own responsibility. So sometimes people say, oh, yeah, but I'm diagnosed with anxiety or I'm diagnosed with depression or whatever. And, and that's hard. And the thing is with that one, it is what it is. I'm not mean to be insensitive. I have ADHD. The thing is, like Carl Jung would say, or has said numerous times, that which we resist will persist, And it's true that acceptance is the key to most problems or issues. And we're not talking about in a defeated sense. We're talking about going with the current, riding the wave, kind of like the sea turtles in Nemo. I have ADHD. That is what it is. I'm going to manage it forever and embrace it, or at least accept it, right? Because that makes everything so much easier. So when we accept that we have whatever extra to deal with, then we might, we have this awareness that we might have to do a little more heavy lifting than somebody. Sorry about the camera moving around, but these flies are bad. It's actually gorgeous out here, though. We have to do a little bit more heavy lifting because of having something extra to deal with. And so just kind of knowing that going in. So in addition to that, there's also, it's very important to have a basic awareness of how the brain works. Because, and we're not talking like, you don't have to embrace your inner nerd if you don't want to, though I'm a big fan, I love nerds. To just basically get it. So we've talked about the limbic system a little bit. And we also have talked about, the brain being like a toddler. And so what we're going to talk about today is kind of huge, actually. Because to become the boss of your brain, which is the theme of Mindcraft, this awareness of something called the Tetris effect is very important. And before we go another inch further, I'm a little out of it with the allergies, I got to make sure I give Sean Aker his credit where credit is due, because The Happiness Advantage is one of the best books I've ever read. Our kids got it for Christmas, and I use it in my class. So he's the author of that, and he talks about the Tetris effect there. So basically, the Tetris game, if you don't know, is a video game that has to do with shapes and colors, and when you play this for hours and hours at a time, it's obviously going to be this effect would be way worse. But even 5 minutes of it will cause the Tetris effect. So the shapes are the color shapes like falling down from, the sky or wherever they're falling from and landing. And the idea is to arrange them and put them together. And that's like the game. And so the brain loves patterns. That's actually how we learn. So it's hard to really separate this because we need to put things in patterns and make sense of our environment. So this is a tough one. And we all know that video games in general are very reinforcing. They're set up that way, which is why this, addiction to video games is very prevalent. They're kind of set up for that. So the thing is, the Tetris effect is a good example of how the brain works in real life, because the brain loves patterns so much. So in the Tetris game, and somebody plays this, it doesn't actually have to be hours and hours. It's just worse than. It's been shown that there's like a cognitive after effect. So when people have played this for a while, again, it could be as small as a half an hour, they could walk into a grocery store or whatever store, and their brain automatically started to make sense of the boxes on the shelves, or the bags, or whatever on the shelves by color, and try to rearrange them. And this is that might sound silly, but this is really important, because the toddler-like brain does what's comfortable and familiar, what it knows. So this works positively or negatively. So just like the Tetris effect, I'm actually thinking of a student right now who I had in my Minecraft class years ago. This is a great example, actually. She was a senior, and all of a sudden she sat there. She's like, "Oh, Professor, I got something to say." Okay, great. And she told us how, oh my gosh, I did not realize this until this minute with the Tetris effect, that this has happened to me. It's happening now. So it was actually right about now. It was actually, I would say, mid-April. She was an accountant, and she had an internship as a senior. A wonderful young lady, very, very smart. And she was heavy into this internship. She was, I think, doing it 3 days a week. It was right before tax season. So obviously we know what tax accountants do. Accountants in general looking for mistakes, right? But certainly during tax season, that pressure is on to find any potential errors. All day, every day, they're looking for mistakes. And she realized that out in the world, in school, with the relationships and things, she was looking for errors in people, in everything else she was doing. She was just, because that's what the brain does. The brain loves patterns and repetition. And so the Tetris effect can look with what's wrong with life, or it can look for what's right in life. It works both ways. So um, actually, I noticed this, since I'm aware of it, it was kind of easier. But with grading papers online, because typically I'm kind of old school, because I love to read what my students write, and I've always had them, until the Rona, always had them hand things in paper form, which might have been a little weird for them, but very enjoyable for me, to sit on the couch with Giovanni and a glass of wine and really enjoy what they're writing. So obviously things have been submitted online this whole past year, and I've just kind of, yeah, I noticed that it was that, like that accountant thing, like just versus just writing all these great comments all over the place. I was aware of it, so it was fine. I just realized how much more enjoyable it was to read them, in old school way, in just a more enjoyable way. So that said, so the brain, so it's like automatic pilot is what I'm saying. So if you're a negative Nelly, it's going to take, a heavier lift to snap out of this. Plus, in a more primal, more primitive sense, the human brain in general, if you're the most positive person in the world, the human brain is wired to think negatively for survival reasons, like what's wrong with, like on the lookout, like shortstop stance, what could happen kind of thing. So it's a little heavier lift to get the positive thing going anyway, just because of, way back when saber-toothed tigers could have, been chasing us, and we're diving into caves looking for, do you think one's lurking? Do you think it's out there? Whatever. So there's that. So in order to do the heavy lift, we have to first become aware, because we can't do anything if we're not aware of it, and then make a conscious choice. And here's where it gets easy. There's a very easy plan for this. So I'm going to go this way. This is where I heard yuck. Heard the woodpeckers last time. There's a lot of woodpeckers here. So gratitude. I know some people are like, oh, this is so cheesy, touchy-feely. Okay, maybe, but no, it really isn't. It's neurological. Something I do every day of my life. And the thing is, though it's certainly a good thing to be grateful in general and to say it, but to write it down, the power of the written word is a lot. And so Marty Seligman, father of positive psychology, is a very nice man, very nice man. I love that guy. Has been saying this since the beginning of time, well, his time, and also my very dear friend Oprah, who's not aware that we have such a nice friendship. She has also said it. So the power of the word. And here's the thing from a neurological standpoint. And I simplified it from the original Marty Seligman one, which is good. His was just longer, and I knew for my students it had to be just super easy to get them to do it. And it's actually also what I do myself, is to write down 3 things. That's it, just 1, 2, 3. And the words I am grateful for have got to be in the sentence, or I am thankful for, if that's what you'd rather say. But they've got to be there, not just my dog, Dad's banana bread, going hunting with Granny. You got to say it. I am grateful for going hunting with Granny. I am grateful for Dad's banana bread, the words. And here's the thing, just like the Tetris effect from playing that video game with all the colored boxes falling from the sky and arranging them, we can actually see this on an fMRI, brain scan, which means that we can see the brain changing, because neurons that wire together, fire together. The brain can absolutely be rewired from negativity to positivity. It can be rewired to turn around the brain changes that happen from trauma, which we'll get into at another time. But this is real stuff. It's not just touchy-feely. And the thing is, it is in your control. It's in all of our control. And learning to become the boss of our brain is the most important thing, because there are only 2 choices, right? We control our thoughts, or our thoughts control us. I mean, think about that one. It's people walking on an automatic pilot all the time, and you know what? Their life minutes are sliding right through their fingertips, not getting them back. And I know, when I'm like 100, wanting, that 10 minutes of 56 back. Truthfully, I'd rather probably be skydiving or hang gliding or something. But the thing is, we're not getting those back. This is not a dress rehearsal. This is the big game. And so it's important to be aware of this stuff, and to have a basic knowledge of how the brain works is absolutely essential in becoming the boss of your brain, which means wiring yourself for happy. Because you got to take charge. Like just like a good parent takes charge of their toddler in a loving way, Also, constant redirection and repetition and patterns. The brain loves patterns, whether they're positive or negative or somewhere in between. So that is extremely important to know. Okay, so just to recap, I'll turn this way so you can see this gorgeous beaver pond. Just to recap, being the boss of your brain involves practicing thought control and cultivating gratitude. I love the word cultivate. Also, I'm in Vermont, so it makes me think of farms and rich, dark soil and growth and harvesting and all these great words that are so metaphorical for one's well-being. So, 3 things every day I am grateful for, I am grateful for, I am grateful for. And one more Sean Aker thing, which I also do, is something called the 20-second rule. And that means, because this is statistically demonstrated, that if you want to increase a good behavior or decrease an unfavorable behavior, we want to make it convenient for us. And apparently, 20 seconds is what makes that, like, what flips the switch on that. So, an example would be I keep my gratitude journal right on the windowsill of our bedroom, so I have to walk by it to get out the door. Well, I do it every single day because it's right there, and there's a pen hooked in there, a little string, so that makes it easy. If you want to work out, then having your sneakers, whatever it is you're doing, having your sneakers and your stuff right there, so you have to go looking for it. Because if we have to go looking for it for more than 20 seconds, the odds increase exponentially that whatever it is will not happen. So 20-second rule. So here we go. Thought control. Be aware of the Tetris effect. The gratitude thing, okay, I am grateful for. Get a journal like today, dollar store, or get an old something, and have it super accessible with a pen. It can be like your sock drawer or something like that. 20-second rule. And it also takes roughly 21 days for a new habit to shift and stick. Because habits are not made or broken, they shift. So very, very important. And if you start getting these in place, you're going to be happier very quickly. And for sure, you'll see some big changes by 21 days. Remember, whatever we practice, we inevitably get good at. That's a beautiful thing. And as we go along, less effort is required. It's just fantastic. So practice mind control, right? Be aware of the Tetris effect. Get a gratitude journal. Write down 3 things that include the words I am grateful for. And embrace the 20-second rule. Become the boss of your brain. This is Kimberly Quinn signing off from Northern Vermont. Have a mindful and grateful day.